Good morning. My name is Nisha Nancy Daniel. I am an assistant professor, Faculty of Commerce and Management, Rama University, Kanpur. Today we are going to study cost accounting, and the topic for today is classification of cost. So let's start with our topic, classification of cost. We need to understand what is cost accounting. Cost accounting is nothing but simply ascertaining the cost of the production, the overall cost, and the cost is classified into various categories and various heads. Let's start with our first head, classification by nature or element. Now this is the most simple classification of cost. It can be categorized in three categories: material, labor and expenses. Material can be classified further in two categories, that is direct material and indirect material. Material is something which is used to produce the finished product, and we can classify it into two categories, that is direct material and indirect material. Direct material is something which is used directly in the process of production, like our raw material. And if we talk about indirect material, it is not directly used with the production, like for example our oil, grease. So these are the two categories of material. If we further move to our next is labor, and labor can also be categorized in two categories, that is direct labor and indirect labor. Labor are the manpower who are working to complete the process of production, and there are two kinds of labor, which is direct labor and indirect labor. Now labor who are directly involved in the production process are termed as direct labor, and they are given their fee in the form of wages. And if we talk about our indirect labor, are people who are just supporting the production process, but they are not directly involved in the production. For example, our supervisors, our storekeepers, these are the people who are just supporting the process of production, and they are not completely or directly involved in the process of production. Next we have our expenses. Next category is expenses, which is incurred in the process of production, and it can also be categorized as direct expenses and indirect expenses. Direct expenses are those expenses which can easily be traceable to the production, directly to the product. For example, cost of a special layout project can be termed as direct expenses. And if we talk about our indirect expenses, they are something which are not easily traceable to the product. For example, rent, because rent is used as an overall cost, so it can't be determined for a specific product. Now next, our classification is on the basis of time. On the basis of time, it can be classified as historical cost and predetermined cost. Historical cost is the cost, as the name suggests, cost which is already incurred in the past. This cost is considered when the production process is entirely completed and entirely over. Then we calculate this cost. So it is termed as historical cost. Next we have our predetermined cost. Predetermined cost can be understood as standard cost or estimated cost. These are the costs which we are just presuming beforehand. We are just estimating them. We are just providing a standard cost so that we can compare it with the actual cost. So on the basis of our time, we can classify the cost on two bases, that is historical cost and predetermined cost. Next we have our traceability, classification by traceability. Now there are some costs which can easily be traceable and some are not easily traceable. So on that basis, we have two categories, that is direct cost and indirect cost. As we can understand with the term direct cost, these are the costs which can easily be traceable with the product. For example, a special layout for any project can easily be determined that it is being used for this particular product. So these are called direct cost. And if we talk about indirect cost are costs which are not directly or easily traceable with the product. Like we have discussed the example of our rent, which cannot be easily traceable for any specific product. If we move further, our next classification is on the basis of activity or volume. Now cost can easily be classified on the basis of their volume. First is fixed cost. Fixed cost is a cost which is already fixed and it will remain same or constant throughout the production process. It will not change at any point of time. It is fixed. For example, again we can take the example of our rent. Rent is fixed for the particular shop. Whether you are using the shop, whether you are producing the product or not, but you have to pay the rent for that particular month, or if you are paying it annually, you have to pay it for that particular year. So the cost here is fixed. It is not dependent on the basis of their volume. It will not change on the basis of the volume. Either we are producing more or we are producing less, it does not depend on that. So the cost here is fixed. Next is our variable cost. Variable cost is that cost which is variable in nature and it depends on the basis of the volume or on the basis of the activity. Now if we are producing more production, if we have more output, then the variable cost will change or it will increase. But if we have our production is less, the variable cost will decrease. So the variable cost depends on the volume of production. And if we talk about the other one is semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost is something which is fixed for a particular time, but later on it will become variable in nature. For example, if we talk about the electricity bill, we all have our generated our electricity bill in our houses, and we can see there is some amount which is fixed by the government, and the later units are charged, the later amount is charged on the basis of the units you are using. So this is called semi-variable cost. Now if we talk about the other classification, it can be classification by function. The first one is manufacturing and production cost. Again, the name suggests as the meaning, production and manufacturing cost is that cost which is easily or which is directly involved in the manufacturing process. For example, purchasing of the raw material, and for example purchasing of or storage of the raw material. So this is the cost which is directly involved in the manufacturing or production process. Next we have administrative or office cost. Administrative cost is the cost of regulating the policies or for formulating the policies or for giving directions to the employees. This is the cost incurred while doing all these things, while filing our policies, while regulating our policies, the cost while incurred while directing our employees. For example, if we are conducting any FDPs, for example, the salary of office manager, director's remuneration, these are all the cost of administrative. And we can also include the legal charges. All the legal works are included in the administrative or office cost. Now next we can understand is selling cost. Selling cost is the cost which is incurred while our sales promotion, while we are promoting while we are doing the marketing of our product, while we are advertising our product. So this is the cost of advertising or marketing your product, what advertisement you are using or what marketing process you are using. So this is the cost incurred while production process for marketing the product. Next we have our distribution cost. Distribution cost is the cost of storage. While you are storing your raw material in the warehouse, you have to face many of the difficulties like theft or loss. So these are all included in our distribution cost. So distribution cost also includes traveling cost, carriage outward, carriage inward. So all these are included in our distribution cost. And the next one is our research and development cost. Research and development cost is the cost which is incurred for experimenting or for researching for our new ideas about the product, for increasing or for innovating anything in our product. We have many new ideas, and for that we do many of the researches. So these are the costs for research and development while we are experimenting or while we are discovering anything new for our products to improvise it. Now next we can move to our other is by relationship with controllability. Next classification is relationship with controllability. We have two categories, controllable and uncontrollable. Controllable cost includes those costs which can easily be controlled. For example, direct material, direct labor. You can control them. How you can control them? While you're producing the product, you have the choice how much material you want, how much material you don't want, how much labor you want to hire. So these are in your control. These are in the control of the organization. Organization can take full control on hiring of the employees, for rejecting of the employees. So we can control them. So this is our controllable cost. But other one is our uncontrollable cost. We cannot control other costs, like we cannot control the rent, which is uncontrollable, because you have to pay the rent which is fixed, which is constant. It doesn't depend whether you are hiring more employees, whether you are producing more output. It will remain constant, so you cannot control that cost, and it is termed as uncontrollable cost. And the last one is by decision making process. Classification by decision making process. The first one is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is something which is termed as the best alternative cost, something which is sacrificed for choosing another alternative is termed as opportunity cost. The next one is sunk cost. Sunk cost is a cost which is incurred in the past and it doesn't play a very relevant role in decision making, but somewhere we can use it for comparison with our current cost. Next is differential cost. Differential cost is nothing but the difference between the two alternative costs. So the difference between two alternative costs is termed as differential cost. Next is joint cost. The last one is joint cost. When we are producing two or more products and we are using the same raw material, or we are using two or more raw materials for the same two or more products, or we are using the same process for the two or more products, then it is termed as joint cost, because here the cost is combined, here the cost is joint. So this is all for today. This was all about our topic classification of cost, and in the next lecture we will discuss the performer of cost sheet. Thank you for today.